Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, a podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Raymond Nazon at Raymond Nazon on Instagram is a 3+ year carnivore and MeatRx carnivore coach. He's lost over 80 pounds with carnivore and fasting and was featured in Men's Health for his ripped physique and amazing transformation. Raymond has also overcome a variety of health conditions, including IBD, heel spurs, plantar fasciitis, prediabetes, acne, GERD, dandruff, snoring, and insomnia. Wow, that's quite a list. And now he's helping many others get healthier as well through his coaching, his IG Live chats, and the 2.5 Asians podcast with previous Carnivore Cast guests, Steak and Butter Gal and Janice. Welcome to the show, Raymond.
Thank you, Scott. It's great being on your show. Very much an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Excited to have you here. So we were just chatting and I was saying, I remember all the way back many years ago, World Carnivore Tribe, you posting your transformation photos and me just being mystified. Like, how did this guy do it? What is he doing right? So I'd love to get there. But before we do that, I'd love to just start with like your health journey. Where did it start for you?
Yeah, so it all started in 2015 where I was doing the routine blood work. This was the first blood work in my company that they included the A1C blood work for free. I did that and I got a call to my nurse's office after the blood work came. And she told me that I had an A1C of 6, that I was pre-diabetic on the verge of diabetes. And she told me that this is a progressive disease. It does not get any better from here. And so I asked her a couple of questions. Is there anything I can do about this? She's like, well, if you take it seriously, you may be able to manage it. I don't know. I didn't know what that meant, but she said that you can do exercise and diet. She didn't specify, thank goodness. And, in my mind, I was like, well, I'm definitely not doing the diet portion because I thought I was eating pretty healthy. Not only that, I didn't want to give up anything because automatically diet, I was thinking vegetarian or vegan diet, and I didn't want to go there. So I was like, all right, I'll try exercise. So I joined a gym, Orange Theory. I worked my butt off. I started off with 1 day a week because I barely could even do that. And then I worked my way up to 6 to 7 days a week. And for 7 months. And yes, my endurance increased. Didn't feel much better. My heel spurs and plantar fasciitis it made it hard. It was sheer willpower to go through any of these. And in the end, after 7 months, I actually gained a pound. And I was like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, well, obviously exercise is not working. Although it took me a little longer to figure that out, but I was like, all right, this is not working. So then I was like, well, I guess the only thing that's left is diet. So I decided to do a Google search and said how to cure diabetes. I just figure, how to cure whatever, right? How to cure diabetes. And these searches came up with the low carb and diet doctor. And that's where I started my journey.
That's super interesting and good on you for being so persistent and taking the initiative with Orange Theory. What was that like? Were you scared, embarrassed? I can't imagine.
Oh, you know the feeling, huh? Yeah. Oh my God. I remember the first day I was there, I pretty much watched everybody worked out because I was worn out off the first exercise I did. And I was like, how do these people keep on going? I'm like, what the heck? And I'm embarrassed because I'm like fat over there panting, off this first thing that we did. And then I realized I have that much more to go, But I told myself this. I was like, look, at that time, because I was going to try really hard because, I heard that diabetes can lead to complications like blindness and, feet cutting off and a load of other problems. So I was like, I'm going to take this seriously. So I told myself, I'm going to work out no matter what, whether I just show up and walk out the door, I'm going to show up. So that was my first mindset. I'm just showing up. So I did that. And I told myself, the most I'm going to give is all I have to do is give 50%. And that's what I said to myself. Don't go balls out. Just try whatever I can and be happy at the end of the day and just keep going. And I did this and I just had this repetitive mindset. Keep on going. Eventually, I got it where I was able to develop it with 6 to 7 days a week. And I'm not sure if you know, Scott, about heel spurs or plantar fasciitis, but let me tell you, just walking on it sucks. Can you imagine actually trying to do, uphill climbs? I couldn't run back then. But I mean, it was miserable. So that was all willpower.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I love that message of like setting small goals, focusing on consistency. I try to shout that all the time, but it's awesome that you're able to say it and then show like your results, show where you came from and where you are now. And I'll have photo available for people of your transformation. But it's so cool to hear that you didn't say like, okay, day one, like hardcore, I'm working out 7 days a week, 3 hours in the gym. Like you said, I'm going to set this really small goal for yourself, and you knew, and you had to work to even meet that. So that's really remarkable. And so you found the diet doctor, you said, online?
Yeah, dietdoctor.com. So I found dietdoctor.com and I saw these stories of people actually reversing their diabetes. So that's what really caught my interest. And I'm like, wait a minute, the nurse told me that the best I could do was manage it. I'm like, how are these people reversing it? And I'm looking at dietdoctor.com and all of these doctors are saying it. And I'm like, hold up now. There's some kind of, something's not right. So I started watching a bunch of documentaries, researching, and just went down the rabbit hole, ordered a bunch of books. And then, I finally convinced myself, all right, well, there was a 6-week challenge in Orange Theory that just coincided when I was ready. And I said to myself, all right, I'm going to do a diet challenge for 6 weeks. I can do anything for 6 weeks. So I decided to embark where I just gave up all of my breads, I did no fruits. So it was pretty much a ketogenic diet. I didn't know that at the time. I called it low carb, high fat. And pretty much in my mind, because I like everything simple, I said meat and greens. Okay. Because I didn't want to complicate it anymore. I was like, okay, I can do meat and greens. So I did that. So within the first 2 weeks, I lost 10 pounds. This is compared to 7 months of grueling exercise.
Yeah.
And I gained a pound. And you don't know, man. I was pissed. I was like, what the fuck? Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But that just took me aback. I was like, it almost felt like I wasted that 7 months. And it was about diet. But anyways, within that first month, I ran my first 5K that I haven't done in a long time, in about 10 years. I haven't ran a 5K. I ran a 5K. It was a crappy 5K. It was a 15-minute miler. It was a walk run. But the fact that I completed, this is a guy where, when I got home from work, the best I could do is get on my couch and just chill and watch Netflix. Meanwhile, I'm eating a bunch of bags of potato chips or something. I was too lazy to even get up there and cook for myself. That's how bad it was. So I'd have something microwaved real quick, get downstairs, and that's all I did. That was my night. So coming from that and all of a sudden wanting to do a 5K, unbelievable.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did your diet evolve from there? So you talked about the initial results, the 10 pounds in 2 weeks. That's fantastic. What else did you start to notice, and how did your diet evolve?
Yeah, you would think that I would just say, oh, okay, it's obvious. It's definitely the diet. Well, I was like, okay, 6 weeks is over. My wife was like, we're going to Canada. We're going to celebrate. There's no way in hell you're going to be in this diet. And I was like, okay, I guess, it might be coincidence. That's all I was thinking to myself. It could be that that 7 months of workout just happened to coincide where it paid off right about that same time. So I was like, okay, let me test it out. So yeah, went off for it for 2 months and started gaining weight. I actually gained like 3 or 4 pounds back. And, I noticed it on myself. I actually started looking really big again. And I was like, man, it's gotta be the diet. So this was right about the January time. So there was another 6-week challenge that was issued in Orange Theory. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try another diet challenge. Here's the problem. So I liked the idea of meat and greens, what it did to me. Problem is I didn't like the greens. So then I started, how can I do this? Because I hated cooking the greens unless I had a bunch of butter or a bunch of coconut oil on there or a bunch of crap on there that just made it flavorful where I could like it. With the meats, I had no problem. So then I was like, asking my colleagues, everybody I knew. I talked to everybody I could, researched online. Is there a way just to do this with meat? I just kept on getting no, hell no. You're going to die. You're not going to be able to poop. Things are going to happen. Oh, I heard a friend that did this and this happened. So I heard a lot of those stories. And then I started researching online, and I came on Zero Carb Zen and reading these fantastic stories. Ran into Joe and Charlene Anderson's story. So I started using the Wayback Machine to find out, because, their posts are, they kind of removed all their posts. Yeah. So I went to the Wayback Machine to find a lot of their old posts.
Oh, that's smart.
I could about them. Yeah. I mean, when I get my mind made up, I really look into the stuff that I need to. And I was like, wow, they've been doing it for 20 years. Read about the Bear Owsley, who's been doing it for 50 years. And I'm like, okay, they didn't die. So I'm like, look, it's only 6 weeks. What's the worst that's going to happen? So I did it for 6 weeks, and I didn't want to stop. So, because I was getting even better results. I was hitting PRs left and right. I went from, I went from being a walker during that time. After that 7 months, I was a pretty good walker with the inclines. And then I was actually doing long jogs. So this is a huge difference. I was jogging almost through my whole class. So I'm like, what's going on? Where is all this extra stuff coming from? So all this is great and all, but 2 months in, because I wasn't going to stop. I was 2.5 months in. 2.5 months in, I end up getting the keto flu. And my energy just plummeted. I mean, just total crash. All my body ached, just the worst feeling. This was probably the second worst I've felt in all my life. So as far as colds or flu went.
Wow.
So I was like, oh man. So I got scared. Went to the nurses. Nurses, see, I told you should be doing this. This is killing you. This is what's doing this to you. And he scared the crap out of me. He's like, yeah, it probably works great for losing weight, but this is exactly what happens. Your heart starts giving out. So heart. I'm like, and he's like, you should get a calcium scoring test done too. And so I made the mistake, listened to him, and I quit the diet. And then I did do a calcium scoring test. And I found out my calcium scoring test was 700. You're supposed to have a 0.
Wow.
Man, dude, that was a huge disconnect for me. I was like, I was feeling so good, so on top of the world. And then bam, it's like this anvil just hit me.
Yeah.
With this news. And I was like, okay. So at that time, I had to make a decision. First of all, I was bummed out for like a long time. I couldn't shake it off. So finally, I had an hour talk with my nurse. And I was like, look, if my heart was getting weaker, which I was like, it's got to be the diet that I was before. I forgot to tell you, Scott, but I used to be the type that would drink a gallon of Pepsi a day. So 2 liters. So I used to only eat microwave foods. And if I didn't eat microwave foods, I would go to Burger King and, eat junk food. So I really took the SAD diet pretty serious. So I had, after reading a lot more, I knew that there was a correlation there with the SAD diet to get me to that 700, because a lot of the articles is like this, you don't build this up in in that short amount of time of doing low carb, high fat, or a low carb diet. So I talked to my nurse. He kept on insisting that I go on a cardiologist and get extra tests. And I was like, in the end, I ended up telling him, look, for the first time in my life, I'm not going to pass the buck to anybody else. I'm going to take this upon myself. This is my responsibility. And I'm like, look, because I told him, I'm going to absolve you of your responsibility because you feel like you're responsible for me to get me better. I'm not going to blame you if I die from a heart attack from this. This is on me. This is my life from here on out. It is my job to figure out my heart issues. I told him, it doesn't make sense for me to have felt this good and felt crappy this whole time beforehand, that it doesn't make sense that this could have led me to feeling this bad. So I was like, I'm going to go on. So then I studied fasting a little bit, and then I ran into, that's when Dr. Baker first came out with the Joe Rogan, and then Dr. Baker shortly after that started talking about how he wanted a group of N equals many study. And I was the second study on that. Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, I was on the second study of that because I missed the first one. And I was like, I'm definitely not missing that first one. I'm doing the second one. The second one, and his rules were 3 months carnivore. I told myself I was going to stick to that. I made up my mind, no matter what happens, this is happening. So I did the 3 months carnivore, kept all the data that he said to do, no supplements. By the way, I was a supplement junkie. I used to take 2 handfuls of supplements.
Oh my God.
$500 a month
Wow.
on supplements. That included my family too, but still a big portion of it was from mine. So to give that up was just mind baffling. Wait, I'm going to do this without supplements. So I did that. I did that for 3 months. I actually had it in my mind that I'm going to add garlic and onions in there at the end of, because, I was like, I don't want to be this restrictive. Why should I? It's like, what's a little bit going to hurt? Although, I feel good. Within 3 months of that diet, I saw my first 6-pack. Actually, solid, nice, slim 6-pack.
Wow.
And, I thought to myself, that's just incredible how my body's changed. And then I added the garlic and onions right after the 3 months, just like I planned for that one day. I had the worst GERD I've had and it lasted 3 days.
Wow.
Couldn't sleep pretty much for those 3 days. It was so bad. I was sitting up. I remember I couldn't even lie down because it just kept on coming up. And that's when I actually said to myself, wait a minute. I'm trying to chase this 5 minutes of pleasure for this much pain, for 3 days of pain. Logically, this doesn't add up.
Yeah.
That's why I told myself, doesn't make sense. Why am I doing this again? So, of course, you tend to forget. Pain, you eventually forget, because especially when you start feeling good again, things start going well again. So, Thanksgiving comes around. We were cruising. Oh, I'll have this bowl of rice. Shouldn't hurt. One time. Same thing. Devastated. And right then and there, I was like, you know what? I'll bet you the way I think is the way most people think. That 5 minutes of pleasure is worth trying for. And I was like, I'm going to go the opposite. Instead of keep on chasing for that little bit of pleasure, why don't I go and take it a little more extreme? This should be my challenge. Why don't I challenge myself every single time? That way I don't go backwards. Instead of going backwards, let me go forward. So then I started deciding, how can I go forward? What can I do? Can I increase my fasting? Can I see what more I can do exercise wise? Can I see what I can do with less, trying to force my body to be more efficient? What maximum can I achieve out of my body? And that's where my real goal came in after that last bit of experiment on Thanksgiving. I was like, that's it. I've made up my mind. I am just going, it doesn't matter what happens from here on out. I am always going to try to move forward somehow.
A lot of people ask me about how to make liver more tasteful and how to cook it or incorporate other organ meats on carnivore. Optimal Carnivore can help you do just that with their grass-fed organ complex. It was created by carnivores for carnivores. They start by sourcing 100% grass-fed organ meats from New Zealand, gently freeze-drying the organs and encapsulating them into convenient bovine gelatin capsules. Just 6 of these capsules a day is the same as eating an ounce of raw organ meat. I personally take these every single day, as does my wife. Even though we both eat liver and other organ meats, our ancestors would have eaten the whole animal. And this unique blend has 9 different organs, including beef liver, brain, thymus, kidney, spleen, etc. And I think it's great to get a daily dose of these organs when you can. So it covers all your bases, whether you're at home or traveling. What's also cool is they plant a tree for every product sold, which helps the environment. So visit www.optimalcarnivore.com/carnivorecast and use the code carnivore10 to receive 10% off your purchase. Thanks, and back to the show.
I love that shift in mindset. And it seems like mindset was such a critical piece of it all for you along the course of it, Raymond.
Absolutely.
So what was the initial version of the diet for you when you first started carnivore for that N=1 experiment? And some of your, you mentioned some of the early results, having a visible six pack within a few months.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
So to be fair, I was a fasting carnivore. I was learning fasting for about 2 months before that. And it was a low carb fast. That's when I found out about Dr. Jason Fung, read everything about him. So that I went into carnivore for those 3 months, and then I went to, so I was mainly eating just like mainly beginner carnivore stuff like bacon and eggs. I was just tearing up bacon, every package of bacon I was tearing up. I leaned on eggs, and it's funny, I rarely eat either of those. So, but early on, that was great. I had a good amount of chicken. I did incorporate beef also, but I wasn't that heavy into beef. Later on, I started getting into ribeyes and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, that ended up being my staple.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And the fasting, what type of fasting were you doing at the start?
So, being ignorant on fasting and, trying to play with my body because, I read all these books, trying to suggest the different timings and fasting and all that. So, I would play. I remembered, I know it's sad, but I remember back in my sad days where I had to do blood work and I had to wait for 12 hours to fast so that I could give my blood work. And I remember I had a hard time quitting eating at 8 so that I could do my blood work at 8 a.m. And the only reason I did that, I scheduled it just that way because I didn't want to be hungry too long. Because I knew how starving I would be because, it's like, hey, I didn't eat my nightly meal like normal.
Got to get in there early.
Got it, right. So I always got it in there early. And I was to the point where I was already, cold sweating and all that kind of stuff by the time I was taking my blood work, So I came from that kind of guy to, I started learning about fasting. So I started prepping myself, I guess, to fast. So I remember doing failed at my first 16. And I remembered eating like everything around me because, I just was super hungry. I remember my first 24, it felt like I couldn't stop eating. And I felt so miserable because I was so stuffed, obviously doing it wrong, not understanding how to really do it. But yeah, I just kept on going in and out of different fasts. And I took the same mindset as I did for my workout. This is something that I'm going to do regularly. And this is something I'm not going to push myself too hard on. And bet it was going to be persistent. So to this day, it's been constant, persistent fasting.
And are you an advocate of fasting for everyone?
Yes, I am. Here's the thing. Wait, maybe I should rephrase that. I am an advocate for everyone to feast. Fasting comes naturally after you feast. You feast enough, you will accidentally fast. And I've done that to so many of my clients. I've gotten them to feast so much that they're like, did I eat yesterday? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
And what does fasting look like for you now, Raymond? What are typical fasts for you after you feast?
Great question. So, I don't consider fasts anymore. OMADs are not fasting. To me, that's just regular. I mean, gosh, that's the lowest I'll go. So 6 months out of the year, so I do a seasonal practice. So 6 months out of the year, right about December 20, right after Christmas, 26th, 27th or so, I will go where I would do rolling 48s, which is doing 48 hours, eating one meal, going another 48, and then just do that for the first 3 months. So I'll do that until like March. And then in March, what I do is I'll pick up a 72 on top of that every week. That one gets a little more difficult. Typically, I can do that for a good month and a half. And then I start having to have refeed periods. My refeed periods are like 5 OMADs to refeed and refill myself and get ready for the next one. This year, I didn't do it so well. I had probably the last couple of weeks, I was kind of really feeling like a refeed's needed. But that's okay because I know I'm coming up to my time where I do OMAD only. So right when summer starts hitting, which is like around June, I do OMAD only, and I start playing around with the way I eat. Meaning, I will do during that time. I will do challenges like lion diet, beef only diet, adding certain things like liver or whatever. But these are my times to play with the carnivore diet a little bit. This year, I will be challenging myself to do 6 months of ribeye only, ribeye and water only.
Awesome.
No salt, no spices, nothing. So this one's going to be very exciting. I can't
Cool.
wait for that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited for that too. And so like your normal diet before the ribeye only, like what do meals look like for you now? What is kind of, obviously it's not going to be a day of eating because there are a lot of days of no eating, but when you have your meal, whether it's after 48 hours or 72 or it's an OMAD, what's the general structure? What foods do you try to include?
Yeah, about 98% of it is ribeye. And I will have some leftovers of my kids, which is their chicken legs or sausages, or sometimes I'll go out to eat with them and then have like a Korean barbecue. All of these mess me up because of the sauces they put on there. So if I go for a barbecue going out, but we go out rarely, so it doesn't bother me. I end up with some acne and some little skin issues. But that's pretty much my diet's been beef, a little bit of fish, very, very little fish, chicken and pork.
Got it. And when did Men's Health come into the picture?
That was actually early on, surprisingly enough. That was December, 2019. Yeah, so that was pretty early on, and they contacted me. I submitted my picture for the Lifeonomics, which is the one that does the Life for Fasting app. So I submitted my picture and my story to them, and she's like, "Wow, your transformation is too good for our page, but I do know somebody from Men's Health. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, "Men's Health? Are you serious?" Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that lady contacted me from Men's Health, and she asked me a ton of questions. It's amazing because they didn't put that much on the article, but I had a ton of questions, sent them a ton of pictures, and that's how it happened.
Very cool. And what did they think of carnivore diet and fasting? Were they completely mystified by it, or?
Well, they did put a warning at the end, as usual, not the usual disclaimer kind of thing, it worked for him kind of thing, but probably not for anybody else kind of thing. So, but they did mention on their carnivore diet and fasting. So I was shocked. So, which is of course the two things that they, the normal, mainstream will tell you not to do.
Yeah. That's cool. So how do you like to work with people? How do you coach people? What does that look like?
Yeah. So great question. So what I do is I actually have a full plan for people that I coach. So I understand the carnivore diet as far as the way I look at it is in phases. You have your transition phase, and within that phase, there's a lot of little issues that go through. So I actually schedule them that way. So I always think of it doing it phase by phase. So I'll give you for an example. Let's say if you're vegetarian or vegan coming in, obviously to me that means malnourished or extremely heavy, anything over 300 pounds or so. I immediately say, hey, look, carnivore would do great for you. Here's the criteria that I have for you. You eat all of these meats and you add a single banana a day. Single banana a day for the whole week. Second week is half that banana. And I even tell them, look, you're probably going to tell me you don't want the banana anymore. And I've had that many, many times.
Yeah.
And then that's when I'm like, you're ready. And it's actually a very smooth effort. All the carnivores that I talk to, why are you doing that? You're not supposed to be doing. I'm like, look, we all don't have to go through it torturously. It's like if we follow steps, it can be actually a very easy method to get into.
That's smart.
So now I even go in a little deeper than that. On the third week, I typically put them on a 2-meal window. So the first 2 weeks, I'm telling them, eat liberally, eat all day long if you want to, eat whenever you want to. Your job is to eat. That's it. I told them, eat like it's your job. If you even think about food, if you're thinking that you're not hungry, eat some more. And I noticed that works so well. By the end of the 2 weeks, they're automatically putting themselves on 2 meals a day. So I have that rule, 2 meals a day, no snacking, no eating 3 hours before bed. And they're like, oh, I'm already doing that. Well, great. Then you're ready for the next challenge. So then I have tier challenges, and that's where I start adding in fasting. And eventually with a few months of different style of fasting that I get them into, I will get them into different ways of eating and trying out certain things just in case they're allergic to like dairy or eggs. So we'll start doing more of an elimination, and then we'll go back into a little bit more fasting. It just depends on how long the client wants to stay with me, of course. So you bet I have enough to keep them busy for a whole year. So
that's awesome. I really like that approach. I think I would take a very similar approach with people. I love that eating is your job to get started. That adaptation phase can be such a major hurdle for people. And it's so important to have them embrace the food at that point, not come at it with a mentality of restriction. And what do you tell your clients, Raymond, when they ask, do I need to eat organ meats?
Yes. So with organ meats, I've actually tested out organ meats. I've done it for 3 months, and I've seen the little energy boost. That's whatever. It wasn't that different for me. So what I tell them is, look, if you like organs, eat organs. Do you need organs? No. That's what I say. So I'm not one of those guys that's going to say you must eat organs, even though you don't like it, or have the capsules, because I think all of that is a waste of money. I'm sorry, but after Dr. Baker woke me up to the fact that most of the supplements that we're buying is just we're peeing it out or probably wasting it. And the body really wants food. That's really what it wants. So once I realized that, I'm not going to be the one that's going to advise you to go for that miracle pill. I mean, if it works for you, fine,
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think different people react really differently to the organs. And I like to say that I go through periods where all of a sudden I'll be really craving liver. Yes. And I'll tell my wife, like, when's the last time I had liver? And can you cut some up for me? And she'll be like, yeah, sure. And then I'll have it like couple days in a row, and then all of a sudden I just can't stand it. Or not that I can't stand it. It's not like when I first started eating liver and it was just like gross to me. It's more like I really don't need that, and I feel like if I eat that, I'm going to get a headache or something. And so I just kind of naturally push it away, and then I wait till the craving comes back again. But that's my very elementary way of dealing with it for myself.
I love that. That's intuitive. See, and that's what I encourage a lot of my clients to be, is intuitive. The other thing I want to preface, the reason I tell people to eat until you're stuffed and constantly eat is because I let them know it's all about hormones. Once your hormones are finally met, it's like a domino effect. it'll start affecting other hormones. Other hormones will start affecting other hormones, even though it's in a positive way. So, for example, somebody was asking me, aren't you worried that your insulin's going to spike if you eat all day long? And I'm like, sure, it will. It will spike. But what's happening is all of these hormones are being met, and eventually you're going to start eating less because your hormones are filled. And then guess what's going to happen? You're going to start eating less. And guess what's going to happen to insulin eventually? It's going to stop. So it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, it makes sense. All you're doing is going intuitively. And I like how you said this, Scott. You want liver. That's what you should go for.
Yeah, it's like the hormone piece is really interesting. It's like swimming upstream versus swimming with the current. When you're in a mode where you're starving and you continue to restrict and like hold the calories back, you're just fighting this like vicious circle that's going to get worse and worse.
You can't win on that one.
Yeah, win on you know, as many people do. And so, Raymond, I'm curious, what are some goals for yourself personally or in the carnivore community? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah. So the carnivore community, my job here is to spread it as far and wide. Our message is the same. You and I, Scott. I want this to go as far as possible. So I'm trying everything I can to make it as easy as possible for any newbies. So I want to make it where it's accessible to almost everybody. So Dr. Baker, pretty much, he's the one who led me to this vision, because at first I wasn't even planning on being a coach. Honestly, I was on MeatRx and, I wanted to support him, and I put in the money to become a coach just as support. Then somebody saw my story just like you did in World Carnivore Tribe, and he's like begging me, I want to be your first client. Please, please, please put in. And he actually put me, he actually told me that I need to do it by this time. And I'm like, all right, okay, fine. I'll do it. I'll do it. So I did it, and I was like, okay, good. So here I did it. And all of a sudden I started getting clients and more clients. And, I was coaching, I was kind of helping out in the community, coaching some Zooms and stuff like that. And people were just like starting to seek me for these knowledge. And, I'm thinking to myself, this is very intuitive. This is stuff I've read. This is stuff I've learned. I didn't really realize I could be helping anybody. It's like, you can look this up yourself. You don't really need me. And they started seeking me out for personal help. And then I started getting like extremely busy. MeatRx's top coach. I have over 300 clients, and it just started snowballing from there. I even ended up quitting MeatRx because I just got too busy. There's only so much time in a day I have. And I partnered up with Bella, thinking that actually would make it easier, but actually we're getting flooded there too. So, but it's a good thing. It's just, it feels like you don't have enough time though. That's the only problem, to be able to help that many people. So yes, my message is to try to get it out there where people can do as much as they can by themselves. If they need us, yes, great. But I want to almost focus on the experienced carnivores who's not getting the results, the miraculous results that all the others are, because I feel like we all can. We just have to tweak it a certain way and be very curious and be willing to go out of our comfort zone to achieve these results.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're helping a lot of people, and you're obviously very modest, Raymond, but I think you do have a ton of knowledge and experience to share, and you've shown results with yourself and with a lot of other people. So that's very commendable. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for coming on. Where can people find out more about you? And I'll have links to everything in the show notes as well.
The best way to get in touch with me is going to be getting in touch with Bella, actually, Steak and Butter Gal. But you can email me at rnazon@gmail.com. My Instagram is open. I watch that. My Facebook, both are my name, Raymond Nazon. So if you need my help, I'm here for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Raymond. Have a great day.
Thank you, Scott. It was awesome. Thank you.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered, or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CarnivoreCast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.